Okay, so welcome back. Hopefully you've spent some time on that first drill from that video and worked on your recoil control. Mounting the rifle, the correct position, as well as that live fire drill I gave you, that progression to 4 drill. So now we're going to focus just on the rifle reload and how to handle that. Now, before I teach you the rifle reload, I want to say this. Typically, the way I teach and handle rifle issues is if I have a dead trigger, meaning you pull the trigger on the rifle and nothing happens, it doesn't go bang. If you're armed with a handgun, you're probably better off in most cases at the distances that we're going to be fighting from, dropping the rifle and transitioning to the handgun. Now, the 5x5 test, includes both the rifle reload to test that manipulation as well as the transition. Now, when will we do a rifle reload? Well, typically, if I am in a position where I don't have a handgun, so maybe I grabbed my rifle in the middle of the night, didn't strap a handgun on, and had the opportunity to stick a magazine in my back pocket. That might be an option. Number two, maybe you're in a position, law enforcement, military guy, where you're shooting or fighting from 60, 70, 80 yards away. Well, it wouldn't make any sense for you to transition to the handgun when your effective ability to hit the target or the threat at 60 or 70 yards is not going to happen. So you're probably better off reloading the rifle, whether or not you have a position to cover to hide from behind or not. Okay, so that's the concept behind it. I wanted to bring that up before I teach you the reload. Now, a couple more things. This initial drill will be your dry fire drill, and then I'll demonstrate the live fire drill. I've got orange dummy rounds in my magazine, and if you don't have some dummy rounds for your gun, get them, because literally, guys and gals, one of the best ways you can practice all of these techniques is at home dry fire. You could spend 90% of your training time at home dry fire, and then your live fire ammunition and time on the range. It's going to save you a ton of money and ammo, and you can get almost as good. You do need to go to the range and do live fire, but hey, teach yourself stuff dry fire, okay? So let's talk about what happens here when we need to do a rifle reload. Now, for this particular dry fire drill, I'm not going to drop a magazine out of the mag well. There's really no sense. If you wanted to, you could simply stick an empty magazine in the mag well to practice hitting the mag release. But if you've already got that concept down, I don't need to waste my time doing that. What I do need to waste my time doing, though, is figuring out how to go from a full shooting position. So for example, the safety would have been off, my finger would have been on the trigger, and I would have had the reload situation occur, which means the bolt locks to the rear. Now, my choices start from here. Number one, do I keep the rifle up on my shoulder to do the reload, or do I drop it down underneath my armpit? I will tell you there are pros and cons to both. Most 3-gun shooters out there, really fast shooters, good shooters, and oftentimes I find myself, simply reloading from the shoulder because I can control the rifle up here. You may not be strong enough to do that. Number two, if you're moving, for example, if I'm moving along, trying to walk, this rifle starts to move a lot. This particular rifle has, a pretty heavy front end with the suppressor on it. So that's something where I may personally decide if I'm moving to tuck the rifle so I can manipulate the rifle and reload it or whatever else from a controlled position. So that's your first choice, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate this from on the shoulder initially and then off the shoulder secondly. The second thing is how I grab my magazine, okay? Now, we'll give you a close-up of this. Typically speaking, my magazines with my rifle, and this is completely opposite of what I do with the handgun, are in my pouch or in my back pocket backwards. What that means is the rounds are pointing to the rear versus forward, where I would normally have a handgun magazine, where I could index it like this. So with the rounds pointing to the rear, when I actually grab the magazine out of the mag pouch, I'm grabbing it with, I guess what you would describe, or what I've heard described as a beer can grip. It's like you're holding a can of beer. Now, one subtlety here is I've got my pinky below the magazine, and my pinky finger is actually the finger that I use to really insert the magazine into the mag well. Okay, so rifle's up on my shoulder. I simply grab the magazine out of the pouch with a beer can type grip. Now, some guys and gals like to cant that mag well just slightly so I can really find that insertion point. That's probably a valuable thing to do. It doesn't take any less time, and it kind of opens the mag well up for the insertion of the magazine. And what I like to do is actually insert flat to flat. So what I'm doing is I'm actually indexing the back of the magazine against the back of the mag well. And that's going to allow me to get it in a little bit more consistent. And remember, when you're reloading the rifle, if you haven't transitioned to the handgun, or maybe if you didn't have a handgun and you're too close, you're probably better off trying to drive the muzzle into their eyeball. But if I haven't transitioned or done that, that means I have time to do the reload, but I certainly want to make sure it happens and I don't drop the magazine or do something stupid. So I've inserted flat to flat all the way in, and when I do that, I do a quick tug on the magazine. It doesn't take me any time. It literally looks like this. Insert, tap, tug. So at that point in time, I'm going to rotate my thumb right up to the bolt release. It's very difficult to miss. Some guys actually rotate up there and hit it with the palm of their hand. I haven't found that to be any more consistent than the thumb. So from that beer can grip, rotate my hand up, hit the bolt release, and then from there I'm going to slide my hand right back into my shooting position, and boom, 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 I can fire my shots. Okay, very, very simple process. Okay. Another way to release a bolt is to actually manipulate the bolt from the rear. So after I insert that magazine, once again, beer can grip, flat to flat, tap and tug. I'm going to reach up, manipulate the bolt, let the bolt go forward. That time my bolt didn't go all the way forward, I had to assist. And that's a very fast way to do the reload. As a matter of fact, it's very consistent with how we would have to work the bolt if we're doing a tap rack or a malfunction clearance, which is why some guys like to manipulate the bolt by using the charging handle itself. I'm okay with that. If you want to use the charging handle, I'm perfectly fine with that. But like I said, you're going to get a little bit more speed off of reaching up there and hitting the bolt release itself. It's under spring pressure. It's designed to do this. So if you use the bolt release or the charging handle, either one is fine. I found one is a little bit faster. It's the way I learned it initially, and I trained to do it in the Marine Corps years ago. Probably why I defaulted. So once again, pull that out. I'm going to lock my bolt to the rear. So this is going to be the same concept, full reload though, but now I'm going to tuck it under my shoulder, grab the magazine, beer can grip, tap and tug, and then once again, notice when I let that bolt go forward, at that point in time, as that lead hand was sliding forward, I was rotating the gun right back up into my position on my chest and firing my shot. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so there's the rifle reload for you. Now don't forget, when you're doing a rifle reload or practicing any of these manipulations, you want to make sure you stay consistent. So for example, if you're reloading primarily under your armpit because you have more control there, if that works better for you, then practice that reload all of the time under the armpit. You don't spend half of your time practicing the reloads on your shoulder and half the time practicing them on your armpit, because you want to give your brain one solution to default to under that stress. So keep things consistent. And consistency is a key anytime you want to get better at something. The same thing goes for manipulating the bolt. If you want to use the charging handle, then use the charging handle all or most of the time. There's no reason not to. If you want to reach up there and hit the bolt release for your reloads, but during your malfunction clearing, you can use the charging handle, but try to keep it as consistent as possible, okay? Don't forget the steps of the reload: beer can grip, index, back of the magazine to the back of the mag well, tap and tug. Don't forget about that very, very fast tug of the magazine to make sure it's actually seated, release the bolt, and then, as always, rebuild a proper shooting position, okay? So there's the dry fire drill. Get your dummy rounds, work that repetitively, gain some skill at it, because I'm going to show you the live fire drill, and that's coming up next.